Hey guys, David here and welcome to the Fit Pro Daily. This week is a little bit different, okay? As you can tell, I'm in my car. We're going to start this week's off with a guest interview with Greg. Now, Greg's coming on to share his experience in how he managed to pivot his face-to-face yoga business to an online yoga business. Plus, he then goes into detail in how he's been able to then transition this back into a face-to-face business while also keeping the online business going at the same time. So if you're in that situation where you have to transition online, or you need to transition back to face-to-face, or you just want to keep your online business going, now you've managed to transition to an online business as a whole, then you definitely want to check out this interview. But before we dive into this interview, and as usual, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do subscribe by clicking that big red button below. That way you'll never miss any future episodes. Anyway, let's dive straight into today's guest interview. Welcome to today's guest interview. Today we have Greg here from Smooth Yoga with Greg. Is that right? Or have you got
That's
a
right.
number of other things as well?
Oh yeah, I've been called much worse, but I focus on my website web presence, which is Smooth Yoga with Greg. So I offer a variety of accessible yoga or fitness classes
Yeah.
to a variety of age groups.
So as we're recording this today, we in Wales, I've got a few days left of lockdown. England are moving into a full-on lockdown on Monday. You were saying in Canada, you're kind of still in a lockdown now, are you?
Well, we've actually kind of changed. Everything kind of went south back in March. St. Patrick's Day is a big day here in Canada as well. So that's when everything got locked down. That was my final in-class person, in-person class. And everything got locked down. So we went from full steam ahead to a total lockdown. And within 2 days, me and the other gym owners, we were able to pivot into kind of a ramshackle online presence, and we fine-tuned as we've gone along, and it's worked quite well, not without hiccups, but we've been able to pivot and adapt. So right now we are open with our gyms are open for in-person training. We have a variety of operational guidelines that we have to abide by. People come in one door, they go out another. There's hand washing, there's increased sanitation and spray, no sharing of equipment, online bookings, and all of that kind of stuff.
So, and it's because this is a great topic now, because like you say, a lot of people are in that situation of, do they stick with their gym? Do they kind of do both, or do they completely pivot out of contact to online, which we'll talk about in a lot more depth in a minute? But how did you get started yourself in the fitness industry?
In the fitness industry, I guess it's kind of a funny story. I started out as a corporate trainer, and I was doing a lot of work in Asia. And then we had kind of that economic crisis back there in 2008, 2009, or whatever. Things started to dry up. My wife and I decided to head back to Canada to relaunch for the Middle East. We didn't quite make it to the Middle East. And then it was like, where can I put my skills to work, helping people and helping them achieve their goals, whether it's in business or health or whatever. And I did my group fitness instruction. And then my wife said, oh, well, you should go to yoga, because I think I was stressing her out. And then I started getting involved with yoga, and I teach a lot of yoga classes. And I think right now, after the pivot, I teach about 23 online classes a week.
Okay. And those classes, are they one-to-one, or are they like 20 or 30 or 40 people turning up for these sessions?
That's a really good question. They're all group classes, because what we did was, even though the gym was closed, we wanted to offer a service to our clients so that we didn't lose all of the, the monthly membership revenue. And so we transitioned them all into private groups. So I even though I'm teaching in person now, they're broadcast to a wider audience. So there could be 20 or 30 or whatever.
Mm.
And in the case of my most successful class, which is my seniors seated yoga, I normally had in person. And after St. Patrick's Day, we switched to the online classes, and that's where our biggest success has been, because people said, oh well, senior citizens, they don't know how to use computers, it's not going to work, and all of that. But that wasn't true. I said, give me a call if you need getting set up, or call your grandchild or your neighbor's teenager, whatever. And as of yesterday, my seniors seated yoga class had 330 participants.
Not many then.
Yeah. So people love online. That's the thing. It doesn't work for some people, like if you need to get out of your house, if you're working from home and you live in an apartment and everything, maybe the gym is the right thing for you. But for many other people, with home gyms or large underused rec rooms or whatever, or you don't want to go out and park or whatever, online's the way to go.
So let's go before we're doing this online. What was pre-COVID like for your setup then? Was it going quite well with a load of clients and everything? What was pre-COVID like?
Pre-COVID was awesome. Classes were always well attended. People enjoy going to the gym or whatever. I had never taught an online class. I had never had to, fix my hair for the camera, or worry about lighting or sound or microphones or anything. So there was a bit of a learning curve there. I worked hard to figure it all out. And yeah, it was sudden. It's sink or swim.
Yeah. So lockdown hits. You're telling your clients you're moving to online. Was there a bit of confusion with clients? Were they up for it straight away, or did you have a load of people leave?
Well, that's a really good question. The retention was probably about 90%. And yet other gyms closed down, offered nothing. I don't know what you guys are doing in Wales. There was a little bit of a disincentive provided by the government for some people to work, because there were these, I forget what we called them, Canadian emergency relief benefits. So they were actually paying people because they weren't working.
Yeah.
And that didn't really resonate with my work ethic. And some of my gym co-workers, we were like, well, we still want to teach because we think it helps people. So we're helping their wellness, we're helping their mental health, we're getting the exercises out there. So we kind of avoided the CERB payments and went out and bought the cameras and the lights and everything that we needed.
Okay, yeah. So it was a relatively smooth transition from face-to-face to online. Was there no hiccups at all that people need to be wary about of clients leaving, clients not feeling like they're getting enough attention? What in that transition period?
That's also awesome. It's that personal attention that really propelled us forward, because anybody can stay at home and watch like a DVD of some famous Hollywood celebrity or whatever. But these are people that are familiar with me and my voice and my way of teaching, or the other instructors, and they already felt that connection. And it was a unique situation that none of us had ever experienced before, being locked in our own homes and not knowing what was going to happen. So through Messenger and email. We kept everything going. The live streams that I was using allowed for a lot of interaction and engagement within the group, which I really tried to leverage. And it worked so well that we actually gained larger following at the gym or the community centers, or for me for Smooth Yoga. So I wouldn't say it was without hiccups, because you have to learn about background music and royalties and copyright and all of that stuff. And then there's making sure that people can hear you, whether the mics are picking you up, and you have to yell or tone it down or whatever. So there are lots of points that needed to be addressed.
Okay, and let's move on to pricing then. I'm guessing you were charging a fairly decent amount face-to-face. Did you change your pricing to make it lower or increase the pricing when you went online to anybody new or clients who carried on with you?
So it's gone both ways.
Okay.
Previously, we had people who were in a premium boot camp type situation where they paid an extra price to gain access to this and everything. So in addition to their memberships. So what we did was we kind of released that, gave all members access to these online classes. That allowed us to maintain the revenue streams without losing. Like, we might have lost 6 clients out of, however many hundred it was. And now we're 7 months in and we're back to in-person. So we've reinstated that premium pricing. And then for my exclusively online, some people didn't want to come back to the gym, back to in-person, because with seniors, we're dealing with an elderly population. They're all transitioning to a membership rate, whereas before they were covered by a community organization that was bringing them in. So for me personally, pivoting to online has been a big help.
Okay. So, like you say, we're 7 months in, or before we were allowed to go back to doing face-to-face stuff. How did you market yourself to generate new leads and clients then for the online thing?
Well, for was maintain as much engagement with the participants as I could, and I continually encouraged them to let their friends know, how the programs were benefiting them, and the way it worked for us here in Canada. I'm on a very small island on the East Coast and very local, and people were like, oh, well, my sister in Toronto, can she join these groups? And can my brother-in-law in Calgary? And can my friends in America? And so then it just kind of swelled. And so once we established, that credibility and that people were making progress and everything, that's how I started to switch them over to a paid membership.
Okay, yeah. So you didn't do any paid advertising. It's mostly referral advertising you were doing then?
It was all through, it was all organic through Facebook and posts like that, as well as, the mailing list that we had through our gyms.
Okay, yeah. And then how were you selling it then? Because I'm guessing before you had some sort of monthly membership, was there some sort of buy-in? Did they buy one session and then they moved on to monthly? How were you selling people initially into these online programs?
So that's where we are right now. So it's what we're launching next week is I think it's called an 8 or 10 class countdown to the holidays, and that'll be sold as I think the early adopters will opt in at a $77 for the package, and then later on we'll sell it again, either as a package or switch to monthly. That's something I'm learning about right now.
It is always difficult to kind of get these things sorted. Then when you start getting into it, you start seeing other options and ways that you can get into it. So
Yeah.
session delivery, then people are coming online, you're doing these sessions. How did you decide to deliver these sessions? Were they all on Zoom, or do you have specific software and stuff that you were using?
I did initially do some Zoom. There were some distractions. Not everybody wanted to be on camera. There's the microphone and all of that stuff. Our biggest success has been through Facebook Live, through private Facebook groups. I don't get to see the participants, which is sometimes a drawback, but it allows us to have a familiar platform, because most people were on Facebook, and it kind of met the demographic that we're working with. And then I actually launched 6 weeks ago, I launched a new seniors program, a fall prevention program, and we do that all through Microsoft Teams, which I knew nothing about, and it's very similar to Zoom.
Okay, yeah. So like you're saying, you were doing the Facebook Lives into the groups, you got people turning up. How did you feel about not being able to see them? Like you say, some yoga moves are going to be quite difficult. Was there a lot more explaining, or did you kind of say, if you can't do it, don't worry, move on to something different?
Yeah, I was very, very cautious about encouraging people to, work within their parameters. And the one thing that, if you're a yoga instructor online, you see a lot of people, doing handstands and these complicated contortions and everything. I really kept everything at an accessible level, and I cued people, because I know I've worked with these people for years. I know what some of them are capable of, and I said, if it's safe to do so, you can try this, but altogether, let's try this. And the one thing that was a real benefit from these online yoga classes is that people were doing them relaxed at home, and they could take advantage of their carpeted surfaces, or their diffusers, or their candles, or whatever, because we don't offer that in a gym type environment, because we have to keep scent free, and all of that stuff. So some people have loved the online yoga classes, and they've said that they will continue to pay for the online yoga classes, but they don't feel that it's safe to come back to a gym just yet.
Okay. And how would you track results then, specifically if you were doing these online sessions where you can't see them, and you can't see them, like with yoga, for example, becoming more flexible or moving better? How do you track results online?
Yeah. So to keep engagement with everyone, I do a number of polls, or questions for them, and I say, how has this helped you? What would you like to see in a future class? What's working for you? What's not working for you? And I constantly encouraged feedback and critiques, both on what I was presenting and on what they wanted or needed, and that's how we kind of fine-tuned everything to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm not offering like a weight loss program for them. It's more about flexibility and feeling good and maintaining independence, and not going crazy.
That's fine. So if lockdown didn't happen, and somebody's doing this maybe next year or the year after, and there's no lockdown anymore, how do they know when the right time is to potentially move online?
Yeah. So I have been working with a business coach, and what they tell me is that now is the right time. And it doesn't matter whether it's now from 6 months ago, or now next month. But if you are serving an audience that has access to the internet or to technology or whatever, there are niche markets out there that you can tap into.
Okay. So this question is kind of like a two-way one, okay? Let's start with what you're going through now. You've got your online going well, you've got people turning up to these online sessions, but now you're having to go back to do face-to-face clients at the same time. How are you managing to keep both going at the same time?
Well, because there's that overlap, all of our gym classes now, we've set up our backdrops and our boarded sessions. So we've adopted the music to that. We've installed tripods in the studios. We broadcast all of our class in front of us as well. So we meet both at a certain level.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I'm guessing that's quite easy with something like yoga, but I'm guessing if you're doing a boot camp or something like that and you transition online, it's a bit harder to do a boot camp with all the equipment and stuff.
It is. So the way we've transitioned our boot camp, because right now under our health guidelines, we're not allowed to share or touch anyone else's equipment. So I am doing in-person boot camps every day, and I have everybody set up. So I have some people doing strap set stations. I have some people doing stepper stations, barbell, and hand weights. The people that I know that are working out from home, we email them a workout, which we're familiar with what equipment they have, whether it's a 2-gallon paint can, or if they're working out with little hand weights that they have. Or one thing that we told people to work with during the pandemic was bags of books that they could reach over their head or do Russian twists with. So whatever they had available to them, we custom tailored the workouts to them, and then we cue it as exercise 1A, 1B, which 1A would be a strength exercise, 1B would be a cardio exercise. So everybody in the classroom or at home is doing the same cardio exercises, and then everyone is doing a different strength exercise, which is 1A. And if you're working out at home, we know what you're working with. Then we have, our strap people, our stepper people, our barbell people, and our hand weight people. So that's how we incorporate everyone at whatever level they are.
So your online and boot camp are running at the same time as well?
Yep.
Wow.
And that way we've increased the audience, that not everybody's comfortable coming back to the gym. And then we've had new engagement from some people say, oh, my neighbor is working out and I was talking to them over the fence. How do I get involved? Mm-hmm. So we've actually increased our gym memberships through the online presence.
Yeah, because the reason we're asking this question is that's the hard one now with people going in and out of lockdowns. They don't want to start an online program to then have to stop halfway through because they can then go back to face-to-face. So it's a question of how can you combine the both, which then flips the question around the other way. If somebody is doing face-to-face stuff, how should they get started with an online side project before moving into a full-time online?
Yeah, so it's going to be a different combo for everyone. I don't teach at just one gym. I teach at a number of different places, and it's been very different for all of them. At one gym, which is very business oriented and proactive, we've had great success. Another gym, they just kind of threw their hands in the air and said, okay, it's all, we'll pay the instructors, but it's going to be free for anyone, which I wasn't a fan of, but everybody still kept getting paid. And some of those people, once they locked down the memberships, some of those people actually joined and started paying. So I think we did lose a few, but it was probably less than 5%. We probably gained a few more people, so maybe that's an extra 1 or 2%. So net loss, it's only a handful of people that we weren't able to reintegrate back into in-person or paying for online.
Okay. So with the online stuff, a lot of people are still a little bit unsure. Can you, and I know it would be different for Canada and the US and UK, it would be different in every country, but was there any safety certificates or forms or risk assessments you had to do to make yourself safe and covered yourself?
Yep. So with the gym membership, everyone has to sign in these, we call them park cues, which is just a health assessment saying, I'm okay for all of this. The way I protected myself was I integrated that into our questions prior to letting them into our private Facebook groups. So you're allowed to have 3 questions. Are you aware that this could be an inherently dangerous situation? Do you have any health problems that may inhibit your ability to participate in a class? And questions like that. And they had to answer yes or no or whatever. We went through each one individually. People were rejected daily, whether it was because they didn't answer the questions or maybe unsupervised participation wasn't a good match.
Yeah.
And then the scramble was to contact all of because we are in North America, there is a certain element of litigation that needs to be addressed. So it was a scramble dealing with our insurance providers, because the insurance providers were like, so it's live, can you see them? Can you not see them? What are you doing? And that was one thing. And then the second thing was like, once you post a recorded video, you need a different insurance coverage for that. So there were some calls and some scrambling and some emails back and forth, and we got that all worked out and made sure everything was fine. And then all of us are fitness instructors to begin with, so we have like our Canadian certification and all of that crap.
How did you find out what insurances you needed? Was it is there a governing body that would tell you, or is it a bit of research online? Or
no, there's nobody to tell you anything. And so it was just calls to the insurance companies. There were a couple of fitness groups, like we have provincial organizations that were saying, okay, we're making calls. These are the questions that you should be asking. So we called the insurance and said, look, this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. And they said that everything that we did with the waivers and the health assessments and the questions met what they needed to minimize their risk. And they actually didn't, they changed the policy to suit us.
Yeah.
We didn't actually end up having to pay an additional rider or anything.
Yeah, so I think from that, you just reach out to your insurance, see what they have to say, and then do what they need to make sure you can then go ahead and do these sessions. Okay.
Yeah, and it is an important question because anybody who's doing this in America or whatever, there are real questions. But as I am switching to more personal insurance, there are certain group plans that offer very good coverage, and they're very familiar with the different formats of teaching, whether it's Pilates or yoga or boot camps or Zumba or a branded fitness class like Les Mills. And so a group insurance program works really well for a lot of people.
Perfect. Okay. So for anybody listening to this, then, is there any final tips you would want to give them if they were thinking or they are transitioning? What kind of advice or final tips would you give them?
What I would say is that you are way more valuable than you might think that you are, because people are familiar with you and your personality and your teaching style, and they will pay to continue with you. Then from a professional point of view, make sure that you're charging appropriately, and figure it out. Online, there are so many options, and figure out what you need for lighting or setup. One of the biggest problems I had, because I live in a rural area, was my internet speed, and I was getting a lot of freezing and slow downloads and all of that stuff. So I ended up switching mid-pandemic, which was stressful for my wife to have all of these people coming in to do wires and all of this. But make sure you have good access to good high-speed internet, because you don't want to be frustrating your participants. They already have enough frustration and anxiety and stress, and you're the person that's going to be helping them to breathe and to get the exercise and to get the heart rate up in a good way.
Perfect. Anything else you want to say or anything?
Yeah. No, and just overcome that mindset that says, oh, I can't do it, I'm not a movie star, any of that crap. It's okay. The more relatable you are to your participants, the better your retention rates are going to be.
Perfect. So for anybody listening to this or watching this, it's kind of interested in the stuff that you've talked about, how do people maybe get in contact with you to ask you any questions that you might have?
Probably the best way, they can reach out on Facebook at Smooth Yoga at Greg. That's the platform that I'm most active on. I felt the demographic that I dealt with, that was where they were. There are other options there. Some people have gone with, Instagram or Zoom or whatever. But if you need to see me or check out anything that I'm doing, find me on Facebook, Smooth Yoga with Greg.
Perfect, Greg. Thank you for your time today. So that was Greg. And as you can see, it was really quite interesting to see how he'd managed to transition an older generation from face-to-face yoga to to online yoga, and the hassles and issues that came up with it, but also how he's managed to make it such a successful transition. And now he's also having to transition it back to face-to-face. So it was really great to hear the inside from how Greg has managed to transition his business from one place and then back to another. Like I said, this week is a little bit different, so make sure you do tune in for the rest of the week to see what else we've got coming your way. But before you do leave, if you want to subscribe so you never miss any future episodes, make sure you do click that big red button below. That way you'll never miss what you've got coming this week, and you'll always be able to find out all this great info. I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers.